The only doctor who can grant a permanent cure. By Dr. Walter Brevo, Sr. It was 22nd November 1979, the eve of Baba's birthday. We finally arrived in Puttaparthi. My spouse, son, and I had gone through so much trouble getting here. Just as we entered, Baba finished his discourse and started a bhajan. When we heard his beautiful voice, we left the luggage unattended and ran to the assembly hall, which we later learned was the renowned Purna Chandra Auditorium. There he was singing a melodious bhajan. A chorus of thousands of voices followed him with devotion. We were overwhelmed in the divine presence, and we could hardly believe it. Discovering divinity in desperation just 3 years ago, I had been a militant atheist. I felt sorry for those who believed in anything other than palpable materials. At that time, it was more likely that I would visit Moscow to take a course on dialectical materialism rather than travel to Bangalore, a city whose name I didn't even know, to meet Baba. But on 22nd December 1976, the fateful diagnosis arrived for my ailing son, Dr. Brevo. Your son has congenital hemolytic anemia, type S&T, of severe degree. His prognosis is very uncertain and will likely follow a very painful course due to the complications that you, as a pediatrician, know fully well. I felt the world was crumbling around me. I thought this could happen to others, but why me? Of course, I know the answer now. Baba was bringing me back on the right path through suffering, which was the product of my past actions, that is, karma, which I had so often laughed off before. These concepts were then philosophically unacceptable to me, given my dialectical materialist training. Desperation and helplessness made me reluctantly accept all the options of alternative healing that Manuela, my wife, suggested to me, from sorcerers to pseudo-miracle workers. But in the end, they ended up disappointing and misleading us. It was 1977, and I had already devoured all the esoteric and spiritual literature that came to my hands. I had been introduced to the term avatar and had become a believer in that concept. Thus, when, by chance, I learned of the existence of the avatar, I believed immediately that Sai Baba was God incarnate and I was his devotee. I had no doubt. I was surprised at myself for my immediate and unconditional acceptance of this concept. A short article in some magazine with the picture of a man, whom some of my spiritual friends found strange and laughable, was more than enough to convince me to become a devotee of Satya Sai Baba. The spiritual guide of this group of friends had tried to heal my son, but the disease had only worsened. The doctors had given up hope, too. In the end, everyone said that only God could heal him. Then only Baba can do it, I said aloud with conviction. The guide tried to dissuade me, saying that since he could not heal, Sai Baba certainly could not do it. But I was determined to try. Dejected and wounded in Puttaparthi weeks later, using the money I had saved for the purchase of a house, Walter Cito, my son, also called Walter, Jr., Manuela, and I left for India without knowing how to speak English and without knowing how to locate Baba in such a vast country. We also didn't know any Peruvians who had made such a pilgrimage before. When we finally arrived at Puttaparthi, we were 3 tiny specks in a sea of devotees who had come to celebrate his birthday. How could we speak to Swami? Before leaving Lima, we had been told that Baba would leave the ashram after his birthday for over a month. So, I had to find a way to get Swami's attention, even though I was determined to wait months or even years, if necessary, to ask Swami to heal our 4-year-old son. On the day of his birthday, Baba went out in a jeep to inaugurate a temple in the village. We thought this was the last chance to see Swami before he departed, and we began to follow him, running with our child in our arms. The volunteers and the police prevented us from approaching the vehicle, but we stubbornly persisted and pointed our little boy out to Baba. Finally, Baba spoke to us. But it was in English. We understood neither his English nor his hand gestures. Such was our desperation that we created a fuss, not ready to leave him without understanding what he said. But Swami moved on. In the Mali, the sari that a devotee had lent to Manuela got torn completely. I had never tried learning English because I considered it the official language of imperialism, but now it was also the language of God. I considered this sad situation symbolic of the distance between me and spirituality. That night, on my way back to our accommodation in a school about 1.5 kilometers from the ashram, I stumbled, and a glass piece lodged in the heel of my right foot. I felt a deep pain, and my shoe was flooded with blood. It was raining heavily, and I cried out loudly for my wife, who had returned to the accommodation much earlier, hoping she would respond. It was to no avail. Suddenly, in the deep darkness of the night, I was surprised to hear a sweet and youthful voice saying in Spanish, "Do you need help?" What joy amid the pain! There was someone who spoke Spanish in that place of confusion. Baba's gift of an interpreter, yes, I replied, I just had a cut on my foot and can't walk. But who are you? My name is Juan Carlos, and I am from El Salvador, he replied. Lean on me, and I will help you. And where are you from? I am from Peru, and I am with my wife and my ailing son. I brought him to be seen by Baba, but it has not yet been possible. I understand he is leaving tomorrow, and I don't know what to do. But who told you that? Usually, Swami stays here for a while and then goes to Bangalore. That was enough to uplift my spirit, and I almost forgot about the pain as hope again flooded me. We arrived at the lodging, where an American medical professional examined me and was shocked at the severity of the cut. He treated me with first aid and recommended that I be transferred to the ashram hospital. There, the doctor who examined me told me that the wound needed multiple sutures. I warned the doctor to do it without anesthesia because I was highly allergic to local anesthetics. Now, Juan and the doctor were shocked. I gave the doctor a small packet of vibhuti that had been handed out in the ashram that afternoon and said, "Don't worry. Apply this ash to my wound and proceed with what has to be done. Baba will take care of the rest." After a moment of hesitation, the doctor proceeded and finally discharged me, telling me not to get up for 8 days and to take antibiotics and pain relievers. From that day, Juan Carlos was our interpreter until the day of our departure. A divine promise. The thought of 8 days in bed without seeing Baba was agonizing and unbearable, so I decided to skip that part of the doctor's prescription. When I left the hospital, I asked Juan Carlos to pick me up at 4 in the morning to go for the auspicious chanting of Omkaram and Suprabhatam in the mandir. After the morning prayers, we headed to Purna Chandra Auditorium, where Swami was scheduled to deliver a discourse. Seeing a blood-stained bandage, the volunteers seated me right in front of the stage. When Baba came out, He spoke to a foreign devotee and then came straight to me. I don't know what he said, but I replied with great emotion and desperation that my son was sick and that he should help him. Swami asked his question again, and I insisted on giving my answer, this time showing him the photo of my son. Baba replied, I know. And for the third time, he asked me the same question, which I simply did not understand. Juan Carlos told me in a low voice that Swami was asking which country I was from. Then, I answered, from Peru, Baba. He replied, I am going to give you an interview. When they translated it, I became speechless with joy and cried like a child. He moved ahead and continued to give darshan. In the end, he returned to me and asked for the letters. Once again, I didn't understand anything Swami said. But when Juan Carlos translated it for me, I remembered the bag with the letters from devotees in Peru I had placed behind me against the wall. Despite my conviction that he is God, I was impressed that Baba knew about the letters, which I had not even mentioned to Juan. I promptly handed them to him, and Baba lovingly accepted them. My foot wound healed completely on the fourth day without leaving even the slightest scar. I did not take any rest because Baba might call me for an interview at any time, and I could not miss a single darshan. The only medicine I used was Vibhuti once a day. 12 days later, we were blessed with 2 interviews on successive days. So many things happened in those 2 blissful sessions on December 4th and 5th, 1979. Face to face with God as the memorable interview started, Swami began by asking us, what do the doctors say? Without even waiting for an answer, he materialized a medallion with his image for my son, bestowing permanent protection. Telling us to never take it off, he said that Walter Sito, my son, would be cured. He also lovingly assured us that he would take care of everything and that he had always been with us. Swami gave us packets of Vibhuti and told us to give it to the child with some water, morning and night. Then Baba pointed to Manuela, saying, she was praying to me. He imitated Manuela's posture as she cried and prayed to a picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus while holding Walter Sito in her arms. Manuela reacted sharply, I did not pray to you. I prayed to Jesus. Baba lovingly replied, yes, but there is only one God, so I listened to you. I have always been with you. I have brought all of you here. After that, Baba made a circular motion with his palm and created Vibhuti. Manuela thought that he was surely pulling it out from under his sleeve. Just as the thought occurred to her, Baba turned around, smiled at her, and pulled up his sleeves to show that nothing was hidden. Luis Muniz, president of the Sai Organization of Mexico, began to say to Baba, Swami, in Peru. Baba interrupted him and said, yes, in Peru, there are many devotees of Swami and there is no Sai center. He pointed to Manuela and me, and as a sign of blessing, he told us, I bless you and authorize you to form the first Sai center in Peru. He gave instructions to Luis Muniz to help us with all the necessary arrangements to start a center. He then provided us with many packets of Vibhuti as medicine for our little one, instructing him to take it with water every morning and evening. Walter Jr. sincerely promised Swami that he would do everything he said. At the end of the interview, Manuela worriedly asked Swami what to do when the Vibhuti runs out. Swami replied, don't worry, you will never be lacking. Vibhuti cascade and interview blessings. When Swami said we would never be lacking, we assumed he was referring to Vibhuti. Later, I realized that when Swami says we won't lack anything, he means anything. We also thought that perhaps Vibhuti would be sent to us through some devotees returning to Peru. But we knew no one from Peru who would be visiting India. We got the answer in March 1980, when Vibhuti began to pour out from two of the numerous photos of Swami covering practically all the walls of our house. It was with great joy that we communicated Baba's miracle to the devotees we knew. A month later, the miracle occurred again in the same photos. In fact, from one of them, Vibhuti fell like rain to the ground. When Manuela put out her hand to catch the shower of Vibhuti, not a speck fell on her. I tried to do the same, but the Vibhuti eluded me, too. Our children Miguel, Carmen, and Oscar tried, with the same results. Finally, we had Waltercito put out his hand, and immediately, his hand was covered with the sacred Vibhuti. The message was clear. It was meant for him. On 27th May 1980, the first Sai Center in Peru was founded with 52 members. Around August or September, the Vibhuti manifestation stopped. In November of that year, we traveled to India for the second time as delegates to the Third World Conference of Sai Organizations. During that visit, Swami blessed us with 3 interviews. In one of them, he called the 3 of us, Waltercito, Manuela, and I, to the private interview room and made us kneel in front of him. He lovingly taught us to chant the Gayatri Mantra, line by line. We felt in our hearts that Swami thus initiated us and accepted us as his devotees. We visited him again in 1982, and Swami blessed us again with interviews. More Vibhuti miracles. In 1986, Waltercito had been suffering from recurring painful episodes caused by his illness. Since Western medicine did not relieve his suffering, we took him to a Chinese doctor, a friend of ours, who, in addition to acupuncture and moxa, prescribed Chinese herbs and medicines. Even though he knew we were vegetarians, the Chinese doctor told our son to eat meat, otherwise, he could not continue treating him. Waltercito listened to him, but once the doctor left, our 10-year-old child began to cry. He pleaded that he would rather endure pain than eat meat, which Swami had strongly forbidden for true spiritual seekers. We respected his decision and did not take him back to the doctor. A couple of days later, on 14th March 1986, Vibhuti again started forming on one of Swami's pictures as a sign of Swami's approval of our son's decision. That same afternoon, while we were singing bhajans before this picture, Waltercito began to shout from the bathroom, telling us that Vibhuti was coming from a small painting hanging there. Again, on 16th March, our other son Oscar began to shout excitedly, "Vibhuti! Vibhuti!" The holy ash was now flowing out from the picture of Christ. This miracle had a special meaning for Manuela. My wife was always worried that her devotion to Baba was a spiritual betrayal of Christ. With this miracle, the apparent duality ended, and she understood the unity of all religions, that all names and all forms belong to God. The Vibhuti miracles continued. After a while, even Amrit or nectar began to ooze from the pictures. These were tangible experiences that we shared with other devotees. But what cannot be shared are the inner feelings of devotion experienced by every devotee who witnessed the manifestation of Swami's omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence. Modern-day Christ. During our visit to Puttaparthi in 1988, Swami blessed us with 3 interviews. In one of the interviews, Baba, like Jesus Christ, made the lame walk. A man had entered the interview room in a wheelchair but walked out hand in hand with Baba. I opened my heart to him and listed my concerns, mainly about Walter Sito. Swami said, "Why do you worry so much when I am always with you? Be happy." He then pulled Walter Sito's cheek tenderly and said several times, "Good boy. Good boy." He promised us that he would give him a permanent cure. At the end of that interview, Manuela's camera had run out of film, and she couldn't click any more pictures. But before leaving, Baba said to her, "Take a picture of me," and sat in his chair. Manuela wondered, "Now, what am I going to do? I don't have any more film." She still stood up and took the photo. It was a miracle because the camera worked. When we left the interview, the camera didn't work again. On 30th June 1989, Walter J.'s 14th birthday, Vibhuti started coming from the full-length painting of Swami above his bed. After that, so much Amrit oozed out that we filled a few pots with it. We have recorded that event on video as well. It was clear that Swami was referring to something deeper when he promised a permanent cure for Walter Sito. Swami's special love for Walter Sito. In November 1990, I traveled to India with Walter Sito, without Manuela. In that interview, Baba took my son on his lap and asked him, "What do you want, boy?" Walter Jr. replied mentally, "I want liberation." He later told me that he did not say it out loud because he knew of my attachment to him. Baba began to make his usual hand movement, and Walter Jr. could see that a small white light was forming in a spiral in Baba's hand. That light became a second medal, very similar to the first one he materialized in 1979. Baba told everyone at that interview that he was very happy because the devotees gathered around him had been with him when he came as Rama, Krishna, and Shirdi Sai. He blessed them and told them that they all would have a peaceful death as a reward. Walter Sito's permanent cure. By 1995, Walter Sito's health got very bad. His spleen had grown very large from anemia. He lost a lot of weight and could barely walk. I was in a lot of grief and anguish because the slightest blow could end his life. A doctor decided to do an embolization, but things went wrong. Walter Sito developed sepsis and had to undergo emergency surgery. A pumpkin-sized spleen had to be removed. The pain became more acute and more frequent. Walter Sito felt that all this resulted from not obeying Swami, who had told him a few years earlier not to have surgery. But in 2000, when he sought answers from Swami, Baba came into his dream and showed him the actions he had committed in a previous life that had generated karma to be settled in his present life. Walter Jr. left his body on 2nd October 2004. He died peacefully, holding Baba's medallions in his little hands. He was supposed to travel to India on 4th October with his parents. Before the body was taken to the crematorium, a Vibhuti spot formed on his forehead. For us, it was confirmation that he was now free and happy by Baba's side. The loving memory we have of his cremation is a hall full of devotees singing bhajans with strength, devotion, and love that filled our hearts with joy. Even Walter J.'s university friends, who were not devotees, participated in the bhajans. It is only a pity that I conclude this article with excerpts from the letter that Walter Sito had written, which was read after the funeral. Listening to it, everyone wept that day. Letter written by Walter Brevo Jr. Dear brothers and sisters, and parents, and family, Carmen communicated that I was diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis. Now that cirrhosis has started, I have decided to write to all of you so that you can understand how things are with me. First, understand that I am tranquil, even more so than before. Some time ago, I wanted verification that I could unite with God. But don't worry. Though it is true that I am physically tired because of anemia and the typical pain that accompanies my illness, I am happy. Carmen and the rest of the family see my expression of fatigue, which may be interpreted as suffering. But this is not the case. My body suffers, but as I tell Fran and Ciro, one should not pay much attention to it because the mind wants you to believe that you are the body. But the truth is that I am happy. Second, it is difficult to understand him. Even if this life that he has given me seems cruel and hard, it is really the love of God that is manifesting under all circumstances. I thank him for making me remember this. Our family can remember his message, and it gives us hope. Even if living through this illness is difficult, he will not give more pain than one can bear. Regarding my own life, I have asked him to give me these trials while I have the blessing to know him and when it is easier to overcome them with his help. A little while ago, I read that Baba says that if the separation is going to end, there should be no balance of karma and no pending illness. For me, it is good that more illness is occurring because this signifies that God is accelerating my karma to make my separation even shorter. Third, dear parents, brothers, and sisters, you should know that this illness came when I was prepared to receive it. For many years, I have been preparing to bear severe pain and the unpleasant things I feared at one time, but I am now ready to receive them with happiness. It is wonderful to have known all of you, and this makes me happy, too. My terminal illness makes me happy because when I think of death, it is something natural that must happen to everyone. It makes me think of God all the time, and now I realize how much time I have wasted. And finally, remember that Baba said I would get well and be completely normal in the interview when I was a little boy. Hence, don't worry about something that will go away with the body. Baba is curing me of my ignorance, which will help others to believe in his grandeur and divinity. This is the reason for all to be happy. Even if Baba does not cure my body, it is not that he is not truthful, it is because he speaks in divine terms. It is quite possible that the cure which he offered me is not for the body. If this is the case, there is reason to celebrate because it means he will cure me of my ignorance and that I will know my true self. I want to make it clear to all whom I am writing that I am not trying to imply that I am enlightened. I have been able to discover my defects and my ego, which are still very much a part of me. I am still very attached to my family and my Sai family, too. One can say this is natural, but we must remember that this attachment comes from identification with the body. This love exists because we believe them to be ours, that is, identification with their bodies and their minds. This is pure ignorance. So you can see that I still have a lot of adjustments to make before I can realize God. But all these trials are appropriate for self-improvement. We can take what we learned in the books of Swami's teachings and apply these lessons to our lives and treasure these teachings in our hearts. Then, this knowledge becomes a blessing. We must always return to the truth that we are not the body, the mind, or the intellect. Rather, we are the Atma, the Self. The Atma does not die, change, or decline. In this way, we can always be happy despite what happens to our bodies. Use the body to practice non-attachment. I don't pray that Swami should cure me or improve my health. This is in Swami's hands. If you want to pray and want your prayer to be fruitful, pray that in the end, you will be closer to union with God than at the beginning. In an interview, Baba said to me, "Don't worry, be happy." What would you do if God ordered you to be happy? He doesn't ask you to do anything impossible. In other words, the strength to be happy is inside us, no matter what might happen. One must try to discover it. The order from Swami was not just for me, it was for my father, who was in the interview, and all of you reading this. So always be happy, and let Baba bless you and protect you. Walter Brevo, Jr. My son's death left a huge void in my life, and I did not know what to do. I lashed out in anger against Swami. I told Manuela that she should not take Walter Sito's ashes to India as he had desired. But on 4th October 2004, 2 days after he died, the phone rang very early in the morning. It was Leonardo Gutter, a Sai brother close to the family, who called to tell us that in his meditation that day, Baba told him, Walter arrived well and arrived on time. That statement filled me with comfort, and I came to my senses. I traveled to India with Walter Jr.'s ashes and visited Swami, who called me to him. I wept and sought his forgiveness for reacting in a wrong way. Swami just smiled and lovingly blessed me. Dr. Walter Brevo, Sr.